You don't belong here. Olivia's voice cut through the cafe like a jagged edge, sharp, certain, impossible to ignore. Sophia Bennett paused at the entrance, her hoodie casting a soft shadow over her eyes, tablet tucked under her arm, calm as a lake before dawn, every step measured, deliberate. The warm morning air of the cafe, scented with roasted beans and vanilla, seemed to thicken with tension as regulars turned, brows furrowed, whispers spilling like water over stone. Sophia's sneakers made barely a sound on the polished wood floor, yet her presence alone drew every gaze, some curious, some uncomfortable, others quietly questioning what was unfolding. Olivia's hand flicked toward the staff, a silent command, subtle but unmistakable, and a young barista hesitated, glance flickering between Sophia and the manager, unsure where to place loyalty. Sophia's eyes scanned the cafe, calm, discerning, a quiet confidence emanating without a word, the kind only years of mastering business and navigating spaces that doubted her could instill. A single customer, seated near the window with a laptop open, slowly lifted their phone, camera trained, capturing every twitch, every glare, every micro-expression. Sophia remembered moments from her past, standing alone in similar cafes, boardrooms, even hotel lobbies, underestimated, glanced over, dismissed. Each memory was a thread weaving into the armor of patience and power she now wore invisibly, a shield against impulsive reactions, a tool to observe, to calculate. Olivia stepped closer, voice rising slightly, the words dripping with disbelief and superiority. Are you sure you even have a reservation? But Sophia didn't flinch, didn't break the rhythm of her breath, instead opening her tablet, fingers brushing the screen lightly. A simple tap initiating a chain of verification processes, the cafe lights subtly reflecting the glow off the device, as if highlighting her presence. Her authority silently asserting itself. Around her, the murmurs grew louder, whispers of recognition, speculation, eyes darting between the manager and the silent woman standing firm. Sophia's gaze met a few of the patrons' eyes directly, a calm intensity that conveyed unspoken truth. She was not just a guest, she was the owner, she was the force behind the brand, yet she waited, observing, letting the room unfold, letting the tension rise, each second adding weight to the impending reveal. The air was thick, almost tangible, charged with expectation, the scent of coffee mingling with anticipation. Sophia's mind traced back to strategic decisions made from humble beginnings, to nights drafting expansion plans, to calls negotiating leases for the very cafes now surrounding her, each achievement a quiet power waiting for the perfect moment. The barista glanced again at Olivia, uncertain, questioning, the first flickers of doubt piercing the manager's certainty. Sophia inhaled slowly, the cafe holding its collective breath as she prepared to let the truth of her authority surface, the calm before the storm of revelation, the first hint of the shift about to unfold, leaving everyone present suspended in anticipation, knowing that what would happen next would overturn every assumption. Every glance of doubt cast her way, a silent promise that the narrative of power, respect, and recognition was about to be rewritten before their eyes. The tension in the cafe intensified as Sophia remained composed, every movement deliberate, every glance measured, her presence commanding attention without a single word. Olivia leaned over the counter, voice firm but tinged with disbelief, questioning the legitimacy of Sophia's visit, her assumptions spilling into the open air like an accusation. Sophia did not respond with anger. She did not need to. Her eyes, calm yet unyielding, communicated authority and confidence that words could never fully capture. Patrons shifted in their seats, some whispering to neighbors, others holding their phones ready to capture the unfolding scene, their curiosity mounting with each passing second. Sophia remembered every similar moment from her past, the boardrooms where she had been underestimated, the negotiations where her words had been doubted, the quiet moments in her youth when she had learned to measure patience as a tool of influence. These memories formed a reservoir of control, an invisible strength that radiated from her as she adjusted the tablet in her hand, signaling a readiness to reveal the truth. The barista behind the counter hesitated, uncertainty in her movements, caught between loyalty to a manager and recognition of the quiet power before her. Olivia's gaze flicked to the barista, then to Sophia, a flicker of doubt crossing her carefully maintained confidence. Sophia's breathing remained steady, each inhale a deliberate mark of presence, each exhale a subtle assertion that she was unshakable. The murmur of the crowd grew, a chorus of questions and curiosity, voices rising and falling as they witnessed a calm challenge to assumptions. Sophia's mind traced the expansion of her cafe chain, the countless agreements, the strategies developed quietly over years, each decision a silent assertion of her expertise and vision. She allowed the cafe to feel the weight of this quiet command, the way a seasoned negotiator might, letting every second build toward a natural crescendo of revelation. A young customer near the corner leaned forward, phone poised, capturing the subtle tension, the unspoken clash between assumption and truth. Sophia's gaze swept the room again, noting every expression, every hesitant movement, every flicker of doubt. She exuded patience, control, and quiet power simultaneously, transforming the space around her without raising her voice, without demanding attention. Attention was drawn to her naturally. Each pause was a calculated moment, a silent challenge, an invitation for those present to reconsider the assumptions that had so quickly been imposed. The cafe, once a familiar, mundane space, had shifted in atmosphere, charged with a sense of impending revelation, the air electric with anticipation, the aroma of coffee mingling with the collective curiosity of everyone present. Sophia's hand hovered above the tablet, a poised instrument ready to confirm authority, to transition the room from doubt to recognition, a shift that would settle into every mind present long before a single word was spoken. Observers leaned subtly forward, eyes widening, phones slightly raised, the momentum building, a quiet storm contained in the poised posture of one woman who had learned that true power does not need to shout, but is recognized when revealed. Olivia's confident stance wavered, a subtle tilt of uncertainty betraying her inner calculation as Sophia's presence, calm yet commanding, radiated through the cafe, setting the stage for the coming shift in awareness, the impending acknowledgement of authority that had been underestimated for far too long, leaving every witness suspended in a moment of tense anticipation, waiting to see how the silent assertion of control would unfold. Olivia stepped back slightly, uncertainty creeping into her stance as the cafe seemed to hold its collective breath, the soft clatter of cups and the hum of the espresso machine fading into the background, replaced by the tension of anticipation. Sophia adjusted the tablet in her hand, fingers brushing the screen lightly, eyes never leaving Olivia, radiating calm control that drew attention without a single raised voice. Patrons leaned forward subtly, some whispering to one another, others simply observing, phones in hand, capturing every nuanced expression, every subtle movement that betrayed authority and doubt. Sophia remembered long hours spent expanding her cafe chain, negotiating leases, training staff, all while remaining composed in spaces where she had been underestimated, dismissed, or questioned. Each memory was a thread of silent power woven into the confident presence she now projected, a force that required no explanation, only recognition. Olivia glanced toward her staff, searching for reassurance, yet found hesitation mirrored in their uncertain movements and questioning eyes. The atmosphere thickened as Sophia's calm intensity seemed to anchor the room, each patron unconsciously leaning in, absorbing the unspoken assertion of ownership and expertise. A young couple near the window exchanged a glance, whispering to one another about the unfolding scene, while a middle-aged man resting his coffee cup paused mid-sip, eyebrows raised in silent acknowledgement of the shift in dynamics. Sophia's breathing remained steady, a measured rhythm that amplified her quiet authority, her presence filling the cafe in a way that words never could. The barista behind the counter hesitated, eyes flicking between Sophia and Olivia, sensing the subtle recalibration of power in the space, unsure which direction to follow as the room's energy shifted. Every micro-expression, every hesitant step of Olivia, every tilt of a head from a patron contributed to the tension, a silent narrative unfolding as Sophia prepared to demonstrate the truth of her position. Memories of her first cafe opening, late nights balancing books, mentoring young employees, and negotiating contracts replayed in her mind, reinforcing the foundation of authority that was about to surface. The hum of conversations and clinking of dishes returned gradually as whispers became questions, some tentative, some incredulous, all drawn toward the quiet magnetism of Sophia's composure. Olivia's voice wavered slightly as she addressed her staff, attempting to regain control, yet the subtle dominance in Sophia's posture and gaze rendered her words hollow, the atmosphere tilting increasingly toward recognition of a reality Olivia had failed to acknowledge. Patrons shifted subtly, some standing, some raising phones higher, the collective focus drawn inexorably towards Sophia, whose presence alone had transformed the cafe from a familiar morning scene into a charged arena of anticipation and realization. Each second stretched, the anticipation building with a rhythm that mirrored the quiet heartbeat of someone who had waited for the right moment, a moment where calm observation became unstoppable assertion, a demonstration that ownership and authority need not be shouted, but are revealed and recognized naturally. The cafe, once ordinary, was now an arena where the subtle clash of assumption and truth played out visibly, each observer sensing the imminent revelation, the quiet yet undeniable display of power and accomplishment, and the stage was set for the inevitable acknowledgement of the woman who had quietly shaped the empire surrounding them. The murmurs of the cafe grew louder as Sophia Bennett remained poised, her presence a calm force that drew the attention of every customer, every staff member, and even the manager whose confidence was beginning to waver. Olivia Grant's gestures became sharper, words clipped, trying to assert control, yet each motion only emphasized the contrast between uncertainty and the quiet authority radiating from Sophia. The barista shifted uncomfortably, glancing back and forth, her hands lingering over the espresso machine, unsure whether to follow protocol or instinctively acknowledge the presence of someone who clearly commanded the space without demanding it. Phones hovered in midair, capturing the delicate tension, a mix of disbelief and fascination painting the faces of the patrons. Sophia's gaze swept across the room, settling briefly on a young man in a corner taking notes, a woman near the window holding her cup tight, both eyes fixed on the subtle battle unfolding before them. Every inhale, every exhale of Sophia's was measured, a deliberate rhythm that seemed to steady the room, to anchor the moment, and the cafe felt simultaneously smaller and larger, as if time itself had slowed to give space for the recognition of unspoken truth. Memories flickered across Sophia's mind. The first cafe she opened at 24, negotiations with skeptical landlords, evenings spent planning expansions, mentoring young managers, all moments of quiet effort and unseen leadership culminating in this precise instant. Olivia's voice rose slightly, a question meant to challenge, yet it carried a tremor of doubt that betrayed her composure. Sophia adjusted the tablet again, a subtle signal to her assistant who had quietly confirmed ownership and access rights, the glowing screen reflecting her calm authority like a beacon. Patrons began leaning subtly forward, some whispering softly to neighbors, some simply watching, understanding that the dynamics of the room had shifted irrevocably. Sophia's posture remained relaxed but deliberate, shoulders back, chin slightly lifted, eyes scanning the room, acknowledging the shifting perceptions, yet not demanding recognition. It came naturally to her. The barista, momentarily frozen, realized that the instructions she had been given were no longer the measure of authority, that a deeper truth had entered the space, and the hesitation in her movements reflected the room's transition from doubt to awareness. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the soft clinking of cups, and the low hum of conversation all seemed to pause, held in a balance that could tip at any moment. The patrons acutely aware that the ordinary rhythm of their morning had been interrupted by a quiet demonstration of command. Sophia's fingers hovered over the tablet, ready to confirm every legal and operational detail, a poised prelude to the revelation that would fully assert her role, while the manager's increasingly uncertain expressions mirrored the growing acknowledgement among staff and patrons alike. The cafe, once a background of routine and familiarity, had transformed into a stage of silent accountability, every movement, every glance a reflection of authority recognized without confrontation, of presence understood without proclamation, and the subtle tension continued to rise, drawing everyone toward a revelation that was imminent, inevitable, and entirely commanded by the composed, unwavering force of Sophia Bennett. The room seemed to shrink around Olivia Grant as Sophia Bennett remained poised, every movement deliberate, every glance unflinching, commanding attention without a word. Patrons whispered among themselves, some leaning in closer, phones subtly raised, capturing the quiet tension that had replaced the usual morning rhythm of the café. Sophia's tablet glowed softly in her hands, a silent instrument ready to reveal proof, ownership, and authority, each tap a quiet assertion of control. Olivia's voice wavered slightly as she attempted to maintain composure, gesturing to staff with thinly veiled impatience, yet hesitation crept into their movements, subtle but undeniable, betraying their awareness of a power they could not yet name. Sophia's eyes swept the room, connecting briefly with each person, measuring reactions, noting shifts in posture, microexpressions, the way doubt flickered across faces, the way curiosity drew them forward. Memories surfaced, long nights finalizing contracts, negotiating expansions, mentoring managers, moments when her expertise had been questioned or dismissed, all culminating in this precise instant where patience, calm, and authority converged seamlessly. The barista behind the counter shifted uneasily, hands lingering over cups, eyes darting between Sophia and Olivia, sensing the subtle recalibration of authority. The atmosphere thickened, a tangible tension mixed with the rich aroma of coffee, the soft clatter of utensils, and murmurs of anticipation. Every patron felt it, the quiet electricity of expectation, the sense that the ordinary had been interrupted by a poised force that demanded recognition not by volume, but by presence. Sophia adjusted the tablet again, fingers brushing the screen lightly, signaling to her executive assistant who had confirmed the chain verification, ownership, and all credentials in an instant. Olivia's gestures became more erratic, words clipped, the earlier confidence giving way to the first hints of doubt, the staff's hesitant movements mirroring the manager's inner uncertainty. Sophia's breathing remained measured, calm, each inhale and exhale asserting control in the space without confrontation, the room leaning subtly toward acknowledgement of the authority she carried effortlessly. A young woman near the window leaned forward slightly, capturing the scene on her phone, while a man at the counter silently observed, absorbing every subtle motion, every shift in expression. Sophia's posture remained relaxed yet deliberate, her gaze sweeping the café, her presence anchoring the room, converting hesitation into awareness. Patrons' whispers grew softer, more focused, the narrative of tension transforming into one of recognition, realization, and curiosity about the quiet yet undeniable command Sophia embodied. Every second stretched, anticipation building naturally, as Sophia prepared for the moment when the silent, steady assertion of ownership and authority would become unmistakable to everyone in the room. The café had changed, the ordinary now charged, and every witness, from staff to patrons, leaned into the moment, aware that the subtle balance of power was about to tip, and the revelation that would follow would be undeniable to every eye that had followed Sophia Bennett's measured, unwavering movements. The subtle tension in the café seemed to deepen, every movement, every glance magnified in the heightened awareness of the patrons. Sophia Bennett shifted slightly, maintaining a composed posture, eyes scanning the room, noting every flicker of doubt on Olivia Grant's face, every hesitation in the staff's motions, and every whisper passing from customer to customer. The hum of the espresso machines and the quiet clinking of cups became a backdrop to a silent drama. The ordinary rhythm of the morning transformed into a tableau of anticipation and scrutiny. Sophia's tablet glowed softly, a quiet instrument of proof and authority, her fingers hovering with purpose, signaling readiness without drawing attention. Patrons leaned forward subtly, curiosity mounting, phones lifted as the unspoken question filled the room. Who truly held authority here? Sophia's mind traced back to late nights planning expansions, negotiating unseen agreements, mentoring young managers, and quietly building an empire that now rested, momentarily invisible, in her composed presence. Olivia attempted to regain control, gestures firm, voice deliberate. Yet the staff's subtle hesitation mirrored the shifting recognition of power in the room, their movements slower, uncertain, betraying the invisible authority Sophia projected effortlessly. Every patron felt the gravity of the moment, the quiet charge that comes when control is claimed not through volume, but through the steadiness of presence, the assurance in every measured gesture. Sophia's eyes locked briefly with individual patrons, a silent acknowledgement that they witnessed a recalibration of influence, that assumptions would be challenged, that the ordinary had been interrupted by the poised assertion of ownership. A young woman by the window subtly raised her phone, capturing the scene, while a man at the counter sipped his coffee slowly, eyes widening, understanding the magnitude of a presence that required no announcement. The barista's hands lingered over the espresso machine, hesitant, every motion now informed by the quiet recalibration in the café, the recognition that the rules of observation had changed, and the authority of Sophia Bennett demanded acknowledgement. The murmurs grew, soft at first, then stronger, a chorus of awareness and curiosity blending with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, as the space seemed to pulse with expectation. Sophia's breathing remained measured, deliberate, steady, reinforcing her quiet control, a rhythm that anchored the room, that commanded attention without confrontation. Olivia's words became clipped, gestures more pronounced. The fragile confidence wavered as the realization of underestimated authority settled into the staff's consciousness. The patrons sensed the shift, some leaning forward, some adjusting their posture, eyes tracing every subtle interaction, every microexpression, every flicker of insight that communicated the impending revelation. Sophia's tablet emitted a soft glow as the verification protocol completed, confirming ownership, credentials, and authority across the chain, and she allowed the anticipation to swell naturally, giving the room space to absorb, to recognize, to recalibrate their understanding. The café, once ordinary, now held the weight of silent recognition, the subtle but undeniable assertion of control, and every person present, from staff to customers, felt the impact, a shared understanding forming without words, a collective acknowledgement that the quiet authority of Sophia Bennett had transformed the space, suspended the ordinary, and prepared everyone for the inevitable shift that was about to unfold. Olivia Grant's eyes flickered nervously as Sophia Bennett's calm authority filled the café, a silent force that seemed to bend the air around her with measured precision. The staff shifted, hesitant, glancing at one another, uncertainty rippling through each movement, a quiet acknowledgement that the dynamics had shifted and that every assumption they had carried was now being questioned. Patrons leaned slightly forward, some adjusting their phones to capture the scene, others simply absorbing the unspoken power at play. The rhythm of the café transformed into a stage for subtle but unmistakable assertion. Sophia's tablet remained poised in her hands, fingers lightly brushing the screen, every motion deliberate, signaling readiness without haste, the glow reflecting her composed confidence. Olivia attempted to interject, her voice carrying a controlled urgency, but the hesitation in her gestures betrayed the cracks forming beneath her previously firm demeanor. Sophia's gaze swept the room, taking in the micro-expressions of customers, staff, and even the hesitant barista, noting each flicker of doubt, each pause, each subtle acknowledgement of her presence. Memories of long nights spent negotiating leases, planning expansions, mentoring young managers, and quietly building an empire flashed through Sophia's mind, each one reinforcing the invisible authority she now exercised effortlessly. The café, once ordinary, now vibrated with anticipation, the aroma of fresh coffee and the hum of machinery fading into the background, replaced by the weight of observation and expectation. Patrons whispered, gestures slowing, heads tilting, as they registered the quiet assertion of ownership that needed no declaration, only recognition. Sophia adjusted her posture slightly, shoulders back, chin lifted, a subtle movement that radiated control without confrontation, and the room seemed to respond instinctively, a collective acknowledgement forming in the subtle shifts of bodies, the lingering gazes, the quiet breaths held in anticipation. The barista's hands hovered over the counter, uncertain, caught between routine and recognition, while a young woman near the window shifted her camera angle, capturing the nuances of the moment, every hesitation and flicker of awareness recorded. Olivia's attempts at maintaining authority became increasingly forced, gestures sharper, words clipped, yet every motion reinforced the contrast between uncertainty and the poised composure radiating from Sophia. The patrons, absorbed in the scene, began to sense the inevitability of revelation, the subtle unfolding of a shift that had been quiet yet unstoppable. The ordinary café transformed into a space where presence alone conveyed command. And every observer instinctively understood that the balance of power had been irrevocably altered, setting the stage for the revelation that would confirm the authority Sophia Bennett carried so effortlessly, a presence that required neither volume nor spectacle to be acknowledged by all. The atmosphere in the café thickened as Sophia Bennett allowed a brief, deliberate pause, her gaze sweeping across the room, connecting with patrons, staff, and the manager in turn, measuring reactions, noting hesitation, and absorbing the shifting energy. Olivia Grant's posture stiffened, subtle tremors betraying the growing realization that her authority was fragile, that the assumptions she had relied upon were unraveling under the weight of silent observation. Sophia's hands rested lightly on her tablet, fingers brushing the surface as she prepared to confirm ownership, the glow reflecting calm determination, the kind forged from years of experience, strategy, and patience. Every patron sensed the quiet power, the careful calibration of presence, as if the air itself had changed, carrying the unspoken command that needed no voice to be understood. The barista behind the counter hesitated, hands lingering over cups, eyes flicking towards Sophia, uncertainty and awe mingling as the ordinary routines of service were temporarily suspended by the weight of authority that emanated from a woman who had learned to command respect without demanding it. The murmurs grew, soft at first, then spreading as whispers passed from table to table, the room collectively absorbing the tension, understanding that a shift had occurred, and that the quiet assertion of control was undeniable. Sophia's mind traced the path of her career, recalling nights spent negotiating leases, expanding her cafe empire, mentoring young managers, and quietly observing, all moments contributing to the poised, measured force she now projected effortlessly into the space. Olivia's gestures became sharper, more deliberate, yet each movement only highlighted the contrast between uncertainty and the calm authority radiating from Sophia, the staff mirroring the hesitation, their steps slower, their glances more cautious. Patrons leaned in, some adjusting phones, others simply observing, eyes tracing subtle micro-expressions, understanding that the ordinary had shifted into a space of recognition and anticipation. Sophia's breathing remained steady, rhythmic, an unspoken signal of presence and control, grounding the room in her composed authority, drawing attention without confrontation, allowing every second to stretch with anticipation, every moment a careful measure of influence before the ultimate reveal. The soft hum of conversation, the aroma of fresh coffee, and the ambient sounds of the cafe became secondary, the focus of every witness directed toward the poised figure at the center, whose presence demanded acknowledgement by its mere constancy. Sophia's fingers hovered over the tablet, poised to finalize verification, ready to transform quiet observation into undeniable confirmation, the subtle movements signaling readiness, competence, and unassailable authority. Patrons' attention held, breath collectively suspended, eyes wide, leaning subtly forward, the space transformed, the ordinary morning ritual now an arena of silent, yet undeniable, acknowledgement of power, the shift in perception nearly complete, leaving everyone waiting for the final demonstration that would establish the truth of her position beyond question. Sophia Bennett lifted her gaze, scanning the cafe with measured intensity, every eye now subtly drawn to her presence, the weight of anticipation palpable in the quiet hum of conversation. Olivia Grant's hands moved almost imperceptibly, gestures meant to assert authority now faltering under the unseen gravity of quiet power emanating from Sophia. Patrons shifted in their seats, some leaning forward, others adjusting phones to capture the subtle exchange, their whispers punctuating the room like soft echoes of tension. Sophia's tablet glowed faintly in her hands, signaling a calm readiness, a poised authority that required no announcement, only acknowledgement. The barista paused mid-motion, cup halfway to a customer, eyes reflecting a dawning recognition, hesitation and movements betraying the shifting perception of control. Memories flickered through Sophia's mind. Early mornings calculating margins, late nights mentoring staff, countless quiet negotiations, moments of subtle influence building the empire she now commanded with effortless composure. Olivia's voice rose slightly, each word precise yet tinged with uncertainty, her gestures sharp but hesitant, the contrast between her former confidence and the subtle assertion of Sophia's authority unmistakable. Patrons' eyes followed every micro-expression, every subtle motion, the ordinary rhythm of their morning suspended, transformed into a tableau of quiet recognition. Sophia's posture remained firm, shoulders back, chin lifted, the essence of authority distilled into measured movements and calm observation, eyes capturing the nuance of every expression, every pause, every unspoken acknowledgement. The young woman by the window angled her phone to frame the scene, recording not just actions but the unspoken shift in atmosphere, the subtle rise of awareness among the customers. The hum of the espresso machines and the soft clink of cups became secondary, a backdrop to the silent negotiation of power, each patron sensing that the ordinary had been interrupted by a poised, unyielding presence. Olivia's gestures grew slightly more forced, words clipped, yet the subtle dominance in Sophia's stance rendered every attempt hollow, each motion a reflection of the unshakable composure radiating from the center of the room. Patrons leaned in instinctively, breaths quieted, anticipation mounting, absorbing the shift in the environment, the invisible threads of authority now undeniable. Sophia's fingers hovered over the tablet, ready to confirm verification, ownership, and credentials, each moment a silent prelude to the full recognition that would soon crystallize. The barista, the staff, and the customers all felt the tension, the quiet electricity of an imminent revelation, the subtle acknowledgement that the balance of authority had shifted, that presence alone could assert control, and that the ordinary morning had transformed into a stage where poised observation, measured intent, and quiet power defined the space, leaving everyone suspended in anticipation, waiting for the inevitable affirmation that would make recognition universal and unquestioned. Sophia Bennett took a deliberate breath, her eyes sweeping across the café one more time, absorbing every nuance of expression, every subtle shift in posture, every flicker of doubt or curiosity that had begun to surface in the staff and patrons alike. Olivia Grant's attempts at regaining composure were increasingly strained, her gestures precise but strained, a thin veneer of authority stretched to its limits as the quiet dominance radiating from Sophia rendered every command less effective. The barista's hands hovered midair, uncertain whether to continue routine tasks or defer to the unmistakable presence of a woman who had built an empire without fanfare. Phones hovered, recording, capturing the tension, the stillness, the silent anticipation that now dominated the atmosphere, a collective recognition forming without a word spoken. Sophia's fingers brushed the tablet lightly, signaling to her executive assistant, confirming ownership, credentials, and authority across every branch of the cafe chain, each tap a quiet assertion of undeniable control. Patrons shifted subtly in their seats, leaning forward to witness the precise moment when calm observation would transition into unmistakable acknowledgement. Memories flickered in Sophia's mind, the late nights spent negotiating leases, planning expansions, mentoring young managers, and navigating countless spaces where she had been underestimated or ignored, all culminating in this precise instant where patience and strategy converged. The hum of espresso machines, the clinking of cups, the soft background chatter, all seemed to fade, replaced by the weight of recognition, the room holding a collective breath as the space transformed into a stage for subtle but undeniable authority. Sophia's posture remained impeccable, shoulders back, chin lifted slightly, gaze steady, a poised demonstration of control that did not need words but demanded acknowledgement. Olivia's gestures became more deliberate, but hesitation was now visible, each movement highlighting the contrast between her fragile confidence and Sophia's calm command. Patrons absorbed every detail, whispers now a gentle murmur of recognition, eyes widening, capturing the silent narrative of authority unfolding before them. The barista, the staff, and the customers all felt the subtle recalibration, the quiet assertion that presence alone conveyed command, transforming an ordinary cafe visit into a moment of revelation. Sophia's breathing remained measured, rhythmic, each inhale and exhale reinforcing the stillness that conveyed confidence, the aura of capability, and the silent acknowledgement of experience. Every observer felt the inevitability of recognition, the subtle energy building toward the tipping point where authority would no longer be questioned, a poised equilibrium ready to shift. The cafe, once ordinary, now contained an electric anticipation, the air charged with the awareness that the ordinary order had been disrupted, and that the quiet but undeniable power held by Sophia Bennett was about to be revealed to all, confirming the subtle but absolute assertion of command that she had cultivated and maintained through years of skill, patience, and strategic foresight. Sophia Bennett's gaze remained steady, surveying the cafe as the subtle energy shifted palpably, a quiet recognition beginning to ripple through the staff and patrons alike, each person processing the unspoken authority radiating from her poised presence. Olivia Grant's gestures became smaller, her voice firmer in an attempt to reclaim control, yet each motion now seemed overcompensated, betraying the internal realization that the balance of power had quietly but unmistakably shifted. The barista paused mid-motion, a cup hovering in her hands. Uncertainty mirrored in her eyes as she considered whether to resume her routine or acknowledge the subtle command emanating from Sophia. Phones lifted across the room, the soft glow of screens capturing micro-expressions, every hesitant glance, every flicker of doubt, transforming the ordinary morning into a live tableau of awareness and recognition. Sophia's fingers rested lightly on her tablet, a poised tool of verification and affirmation. Each tap a quiet signal to her assistant confirming ownership, credentials, and operational control of the cafe chain, an invisible power that now permeated the space without a single raised voice. Patrons leaned forward subtly, some whispering softly to neighbors, others observing silently, absorbing the weight of observation, anticipation, and authority converging in the poised figure at the center of the room. Memories surfaced in Sophia's mind. Negotiations with skeptical landlords, long nights drafting expansion plans, mentoring young managers, all the unseen effort that had built the quiet strength now fully on display. Olivia's composure faltered, gestures sharper, words clipped, yet the contrast only emphasized Sophia's calm and deliberate control, her presence anchoring the room in a way that drew recognition organically. The hum of espresso machines and the soft clatter of cups faded into background, replaced by a focused attention on the poised authority in front of them, a silent understanding that ordinary routines were suspended by the subtle assertion of capability and ownership. The young woman by the window adjusted her phone, capturing the tension, every hesitant movement, and every micro-expression, while the man at the counter lowered his newspaper slowly, eyes widening as he observed the dynamics unfold with quiet fascination. Patrons felt the space shift, leaning subtly toward awareness, the ordinary transformed by a poised, calm force that commanded attention without confrontation. Sophia's breathing remained measured, rhythmic, each inhale and exhale reinforcing her presence, each subtle movement amplifying the acknowledgement of authority already seeping into every corner of the cafe. Staff hesitated, shifting weight, uncertain whether to act according to protocol or defer to the quiet dominance emerging from Sophia, their motions slowed by instinctive recognition. The room held a collective pause, the anticipation swelling, a silent countdown to the moment when the assertion of ownership, the evidence on the tablet, and the years of careful preparation would converge into undeniable acknowledgement, leaving every witness, from staff to patrons, suspended on the cusp of realization that quiet authority needed no loud declaration, only observation, and that the ordinary morning had been irrevocably transformed by the poised, and unwavering presence of Sophia Bennett. Sophia Bennett finally lifted her hand, tapping lightly on the tablet as a soft confirmation appeared on the screen, verifying her ownership, credentials, and full operational control of the cafe chain. The glow from the device cast a subtle light across her composed face, illuminating the quiet authority that had been present all along but only now fully acknowledged by everyone in the room. Olivia Grant's confident stance faltered entirely, her gestures halting midair, words catching as she realized that the assumptions she had relied on for control were no longer valid, that the silent, measured presence of Sophia had rendered every attempt at authority ineffective. Patrons leaned in subtly, eyes wide, phones raised, capturing the final moments before the truth fully settled, whispers spreading through the cafe as recognition began to ripple outward. The barista, staff, and other employees froze, caught between routine expectations and the undeniable presence of ownership that had quietly asserted itself, their hesitation reflecting the profound shift in understanding that had taken place. Sophia's gaze swept the room slowly, locking briefly with the eyes of each person, conveying calm control and silent command, a reminder that true authority does not need to be shouted to be recognized. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the soft hum of machines, and the gentle clinking of cups seemed to fade into the background, replaced by a collective focus on the poised figure at the center, whose every gesture communicated experience, strategy, and confidence. Olivia attempted a final gesture, but it lacked the conviction it once held, her voice faltering under the weight of acknowledgement that had grown stronger with each moment Sophia had maintained composure. Patrons whispered, some standing slightly, others shifting in their seats, all subconsciously participating in the acknowledgement of the quiet but absolute command Sophia carried effortlessly. The young woman near the window adjusted her phone again, capturing the scene, the subtle gestures, the nuanced expressions, each movement adding to the shared awareness that a subtle, unstoppable force had asserted itself without confrontation. Sophia's posture remained impeccable, shoulders back, chin lifted, breathing steady, each inhale and exhale reinforcing her presence and influence in the room, a rhythm that anchored the moment and communicated authority with complete clarity. The cafe, once ordinary, had transformed into a stage where silent power, calm observation, and deliberate action converged, and every person present sensed the magnitude of the shift, understanding intuitively that ordinary assumptions had been overturned and that the poised, unwavering presence of Sophia Bennett had established recognition, command, and respect that no question could diminish, leaving the space charged with quiet acknowledgement and anticipation of what her next action would confirm. Sophia Bennett straightened fully, tablet in hand, as a soft chime confirmed that all verifications had been completed and that her ownership, credentials, and operational authority over the cafe chain were fully recognized. The glow from the device highlighted her calm, unwavering expression, the subtle smile on her lips conveying quiet confidence without a single word spoken. Olivia Grant stepped back, her gestures now frozen, the tension in her posture betraying the realization that the assumptions she had carried for authority were obsolete in this presence. Patrons shifted, some leaning forward, some holding their cups midair, eyes wide as they absorbed the culmination of the quiet, deliberate unfolding of power, understanding instinctively that the ordinary hierarchy had been overturned. The barista froze with hands poised above the counter, recognition dawning slowly, and subtle nods passed between staff as if acknowledging a truth that had been silently communicated through Sophia's composed demeanor. Phones were lifted everywhere, screens capturing the moment, every slight movement, every microexpression, every unspoken acknowledgement recorded by curious eyes eager to document the transformation of perception. Sophia's gaze swept slowly, deliberately, connecting briefly with each person, a silent conversation of authority and recognition passing without words, every subtle shift reinforcing the reality of her presence and command. The air was charged yet controlled, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the collective awareness that something extraordinary had unfolded, a space once ordinary now transformed into a theater of quiet acknowledgement. Memories of her journey surfaced, late nights finalizing contracts, mentoring young managers, expanding her empire from the ground up, all culminating in this exact moment where patience, strategy, and observation converged to assert influence effortlessly. Olivia attempted a word, a gesture, anything to reclaim a sense of control, but each motion only highlighted the contrast between uncertainty and the measured authority Sophia embodied, her presence alone commanding attention. Patrons whispered softly, leaning forward, eyes tracing every subtle cue, every glance, every poised movement that defined the space now dominated by quiet, undeniable power. Sophia allowed herself a moment of stillness, breathing steady, posture impeccable, shoulders relaxed yet firm, the rhythm of calm authority radiating through the café like an invisible current, shaping perception without a single loud declaration. The barista and staff, now fully attuned to the shift, moved with renewed awareness, actions guided by recognition of ownership and respect, gestures purposeful yet unobtrusive. Customers, capturing each detail on their phones or simply observing, felt the transformation of the ordinary into a tableau of poised power, understanding instinctively that authority need not be proclaimed to be acknowledged, that the presence of Sophia Bennett had irreversibly established a balance of recognition, respect, and quiet command. Every subtle movement, every measured pause, every calm glance contributed to the understanding that the ordinary had been eclipsed by deliberate mastery, and the space was now filled with an awareness that quiet strength, patience, and precision were far more powerful than any shouted assertion, leaving the café suspended in a moment of collective acknowledgement, anticipation, and respect for the woman who had silently, resolutely, and undeniably claimed command of the room.